Can you hear me back there?
Do your whistle.
Okay, we're gonna get started. Good morning, good morning. Can you hear me at the back? Yes. Josh, can you hear me? Absolutely, all right. Hi everybody. Hi. There's a nice group this morning. It's good to see you. Well, here we go again. Welcome back. We had a great board meeting last night. Board got a lot done. Busy time of year. As you can imagine, there's a lot going on. And you have the, if you can do the agenda, pop it up here, please. Oh, it's me. All righty. So here's what we're going to go over today. The two big points last night really was the second interim budget, and Ms. Kakish will talk about that, and then a marketing plan for our school district, and she's going to spend some time talking about that as well. As far as recognitions and superintendents, the bookends to the meeting, the messages, we did give some messages. I read some things last night in regards to some of the things we're struggling with right now as a district with coronavirus, and then issues dealing with race and racism and just completely inappropriate use of language across the board. I read a statement, I'll also do that today. But then we have some positive recognitions up front, really positive recognitions for two of our elementary students and one of our students at STEM High School. So we're going to go through all that stuff today. As we do this, take some time to think of a question, and because at the end, it's been a while since we've done this, but we'll have a chance to have you ask 2 or 3 questions. Same thing for those that are watching this live stream, so that we can have this a little bit more engaging and things such as that. Okay? Does that sound okay? All right, let me share with you the statements that I read last night. The first one being on the coronavirus. There's just so much going on with that right now. It's amazing the power of the media and how it's affecting, of course, the fear and some of the panic with coronavirus. But let me just share with you this. The coronavirus, or COVID-19, is certainly raising questions and concerns worldwide. When Italy closes its borders to contain the virus, it's understandable that people worldwide would grow even more anxious. I want to assure everyone that our district, like all school districts throughout the state, is in regular communication with our County Office of Public Health. And we are closely collaborating to provide schools with the latest information and protocols for managing this health concern. Matter of fact, the person in charge is Dr. Kaiser, and we've had many meetings with him, and he is in charge of all of this for the Riverside County. At this time, we do not have any case in our school district of coronavirus. We're taking many steps to mitigate the concerns, including prioritized campus cleaning procedures to sanitize high-touch areas, such as doorknobs, handrails, sinks, and drinking fountains. And I want to thank our maintenance and operations teams for jumping into action, and thank all of our employees who are reminding our students and each other to practice good health hygiene by washing your hands, often with soap and water, or using a sanitizer, covering your cough or your sneeze, and if you feel sick, please stay home from work until you feel better. Please visit our district website for updates and resources. Last night, the Executive Cabinet, actually throughout the day, Executive Cabinet and into the evening, worked really hard, and so you're going to see things updated on our webpage. You're going to see a video go out. You're going to receive an email today for all staff. There'll be a message that goes home to all 42,000 students and the households. And just this morning, I was on the line with a couple of superintendents in the area. We're really trying to stay this course and do the things that Dr. Kaiser has asked us to do to lower the panic, to keep things going the way that we're going about our regular lives the very best we can until we receive direction from him for this region and stuff. So that's the statement that I read last night, and you can look for more emails and things such as that today. All right? Are we good? All right. And again, yes, loud, nice and loud. Yeah.
Regarding the cleaning crew,
yeah.
Are they going to be given additional time for them to actually clean every single surface on this district?
So Sonia asked the question regarding the cleaning crew. Are they going to be given extra time or resources to clean all those surfaces? And the answer is yes. Whether it's extra manpower or extra time or reshuffle some of the crews to do this, yes. That decision's been made. All right? Yes, Cheryl?
Are we looking at our facilities use, when people use our district buildings? Are we going to continue to let large groups use, or?
That question that Cheryl asked, are we looking at our facilities use, other people using our large buildings and things such as that? We're not changing any practices right now. We're going to continue down this path, treat things as normal. And so, I know we have some churches on Sunday that use our facilities. We have sporting events and things such as that. Matter of fact, the band extravaganza is this Thursday and Friday. And we're the host district, and several schools are coming in from around the region. We're going to continue as normal, making sure that we practice good hygiene skills, and of course we'll stay very close with Dr. Kaiser in the county. So great question. Anything else on the coronavirus? Okay, thank you. Thank you for those questions. The next one, I'd just like to go ahead and I'll read again what I said last night. And you're going to receive an email with this in addition to all staff today about this. Some of you may have heard, some of you may not have heard if you don't live locally. We've had a lot of attention in the newspaper and the media recently with events that are occurring throughout the district. I want everyone here tonight, this was last night, okay, I'm just reading it. I want everyone here tonight to know that our Board of Education and this entire district leadership team feel a great responsibility to ensure that our schools that our schools are safe for all students. And safe includes that no student of any age should feel that disparaging or degrading comments, slurs, or gestures are ever acceptable. And when unacceptable language or conduct does arise, our students need to be able to count on a school authority to step in, to stop it, and to prevent it from reoccurring. Let me be direct. Hurtful language, whether about race, religion, disability, or any other protected characteristic, is never acceptable. Acts including speech must never marginalize or demean. Our expectations about respectful conduct apply to all adults as well. In fact, they must apply to adults even more, because our teachers and staff members should serve as role models for our students and be held to a higher standard. I've heard some criticism that as superintendent or as leadership, we tolerate bad behavior through inaction, or simply put, lots of words, but no meaningful change. But that is not the case. Actions have consequences. Discipline is imposed for employees and student misconduct. Yet, as educators, we understand that punishment is not always the most effective way to change behavior. For that reason, we also strive to model and teach the underlying values that make staff and students not want to engage in inappropriate speech and conduct. Again, not out of fear of punishment, but because they understand that the damage that can be caused by slurs or other misconduct, and that they do not want to subject their friends, their classmates, or their colleagues or other members of the school community to that kind of harm. We've been diligently working on this as a district and at specific school sites. We have trained to date all administrators and managers on implicit bias and cultural proficiency, recognizing, interrupting, and repairing when we see or hear inequities, both implicit and explicit. We're collaborating with city leaders and community leaders to address this for the entire Riverside family. The city leadership is taking the lead on creating actions and steps to really implement and create this inclusive city. At Martin Luther King High School specifically, we have established at the very beginning of this school year a multicultural council class for the first time at that high school. We established a school equity team made up of staff and students to address these issues at the beginning of the school year back in August. 3 Synergy Days have been held or planned this year for students. The purpose of Synergy, or what Synergy Day is to promote a more positive culture in schools that encourages trust, open communication, building rapport, and truly knowing other people and their stories. They have completed 2 this year that comprises of 200 students, and they have a third one planned for April for 100 more students. Every Wednesday, students at McKean have listening circles, and they're facilitated. These restorative circles, those conversations are facilitated and they're held. Parent and community meetings are scheduled for March, April, and May for that community. The Anti-Defamation League, No Place for Hate program, is planning 3 school-wide events up at Keene. And as well, Site Professional Development has been held and also has been scheduled on April the 20th to provide anti-bias teaching to all of their staff. At Amelia Earhart, again, Synergy Days are scheduled for the month of April for students. Professional development for staff has happened and continue to happen throughout the rest of the year. Activities are scheduled for their student congress. Those are the student leaders on that campus. Concern boxes for students have been implemented since the very beginning of the year, where they can discreetly share their concerns. We've also implemented the text-to-tip so students can alert the administration of any concerns of bullying or inappropriate language through text messages. And they also have regularly community circles planned up at Earhart. I want to commend our district and school site leadership and staff for their urgency in addressing these issues. Of course, the issues the district has been confronting are not only RUSD issues. They are societal issues as well that spill over into our schools. Yet, we must accept the challenge and our own role to make RUSD a safe, welcoming, and inclusive place for all students and staff and families. This is our commitment to the city, and this is my commitment as superintendent. So we also read that last evening, and that email, something similar to that, went out to all managers last evening, and all 4,000 staff will receive that email too sometime this morning. So those were the 2 different messages that we put out. Later today, as I mentioned, you're going to see a video that Mrs. Allaby and I are going to be working on with our communications team specific to the coronavirus that's going to go out. And so we're going to stay the course. We're going to keep doing what we're doing to create this inclusive environment, this safe environment. That's one thing I love about this profession. We say, come one, come all. Number 1, we're going to love you. Number 2, we're going to keep you safe. And number 3, we're going to teach you. And that's all of our responsibilities as adults, even for each other. Come and be with us. We're going to love you. We're going to keep you safe. At the same time, we're going to model and we're going to live and lead and teach these proper behaviors, whether how we treat each other or how we work through a crisis such as a health concern that we have right now with the coronavirus. And so that's the vision that we have as a school district, as a school board, and a superintendent. And I want to thank all of you here because I know many of you personally. You do that each and every day. So thank you for modeling that kind of behavior. All right? All right, let's have Ryan come on up, Dr. Lewis, and talk to us about recognitions last night that we gave to 3 of our students.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's always really cool to bring big checks. So I will start with one. I'm going to set this down. So, and I don't know if they're both here, but so many things happen in our district that allow other programs to run. And it's those partnerships and relationships that allow us to be very unique as a district. So just want to give a shout out to Henry Guzzi and Linda Christopher, who partnered with the Riverside Arts Academy, and they have a grant that comes forward that allows us to do a lot of the programs that we run, especially in elementary school with the arts and with the community. And last night, they presented the board a $15,000 check to continue those programs going forward as a second installment. So just thank you to Colette Lee, the Riverside Arts Academy, to Linda and Anne Marie, and all of the work that goes behind the scenes to continue the work in elementary schools with VAPA. So can we give them a big round of applause? 15 grand. That's a lot of money. So we celebrated that. And then there were 2 other celebrations, and I will start with Bill Miracle first. As you know, if you've attended the board meetings, we have student board reports that come from the high schools, and they share. And Bill is a student from the STEM Academy who presents their report every other board meeting and keeps us up to date at STEM. Well, last night we were able to celebrate him and his accomplishments and what he has done. So I'll just give you some highlights of what Bill did. There is an app challenge that the 41st Congressional District puts out, along with all the other congressional districts across our state and our nation. And they call out for students to develop apps that can help and fill a gap somewhere in education. So Bill created an app that was designed to use for students and parents to stay connected to the school. And I'm just going to read this part. Over 10,000 students around the nation participated, submitting over 2,100 functioning apps. Apps were judged by tech experts, tech entrepreneurs, STEM celebrities, and computer science professionals. Bill's app, along with the other winners from around the country, will represent 304 congressional districts and be displayed on the U.S. Capitol building and on their website as a winner from Riverside Unified in the App Challenge. So congratulations to Bill and the STEM Academy. Outstanding achievement. Very, very well done. So we recognize Bill. And then the last one was unique. I believe it was 2 years ago, we started the 7th grade and 9th grade CPR. Hands only, as a partnership with American Heart Association, within CBU, within local hospitals. And it developed training both of those students in CPR, and we do that every year. Well, we had a parent come forward with her son that said they wanted to help 5th graders. And what could they do? And originally we heard it and we thought, 5th grade CPR, I've never heard it taught that young. And Dr. Biswal was adamant. She said, Ryan, we have to do this. I will donate my time. She works at the Riverside Community Hospital. She's a professor at UCR. She said, I will get my students here. I will get my colleagues here. We have to do this for any schools that will let us in. So Kirsten Frausto worked with her. They worked with schools that were interested, and they started training our 5th graders in CPR. You never know what's going to happen. So Washington Elementary, we were notified by Dr. Leonards that 2 students saved 2 different lives based on their training with CPR. And we recognized those students last night. So I just thought I'd share with you quickly what they did. Mariah was her name and Adrian was his name. They were both from Washington. December 18th, Mariah and her friend Abby, 5th grade students, were attending an after-school program when Abigail suddenly ran to the restroom. Mariah followed her and could see that Abigail was choking. She got behind her and gave her the Heimlich maneuver in the bathroom to dislodge a piece of candy cane that was stuck in her throat. They both immediately reported what happened to school staff. So imagine, here are these 2 girls. She provides the Heimlich, saves her life, but now they have to run right to the teacher to say, hey, this just happened. So it's amazing how kids, what they think about. They don't call their parents, they just run to the school staff. So we were able to recognize Mariah and her act of heroism. But there was another one. On January 9th, Adrian Alleman, a 6th grade student from Washington, was at home and observed his grandfather, Joe, or Grandpa Joe, or Joey as he was announced last night, was in distress. His grandmother called 911, but she was not strong enough to perform CPR. The 911 operator asked if someone stronger could do chest compressions. And we met him last night, and he was, he's now a 7th grader, and he's a tall young man, so I think he handled the strength part. Because Adrian had learned CPR in school in 5th grade, he was able to and strong enough to perform chest compressions and waited for the paramedics to arrive. His grandfather was there with him last night. It was such a cool night. So can we give both of them and Washington a huge round of applause? Appreciate what you do. And Dr. Biswal and her son Ishan were also there last night to talk about how this started with his 6th grade science project. He wanted to do something different. He wanted to talk about CPR, and now we have our 5th graders learning it. We have 2 5th graders act as heroes and saved lives. So just pretty cool we're able to recognize that. And that's all that we have. Mace.
I love your enthusiasm, Ryan.
It's kind of cool.
He was running just not knowing whether he's going to be here on time, and he's like, can you cover this? I'm like, yeah, sure, I can cover anything. But there's no way I could have covered this with that enthusiasm. So I'm so glad.
It's CPR. It's awesome.
Good morning, Riverside. Riverside Unified. So the next 2 items are, I called it the creative part of the meeting. So I just want to give you a little bit of a background. Back a couple of years ago, through the LCAP process. How many knows what the LCAP process is? What's LCAP? Can someone shout it out? Local Control Accountability Plan. Thank you. They dedicated dollars to a marketing process. One of the reasons why they wanted to dedicate dollars for us to be creative into marketing our district is the declining enrollment. You've heard me talk about it every time I talk about budget, that in the last 5 years, we've lost close to 2,500 kids, almost 500 a year. 500 students are about $5 million to our budget. It's actually more than that, but it's on average 5 million. So those are ongoing dollars. The reason why the declining enrollment had so many factors when we studied it, one of them is birth rates. Just families are not having kids as many as they used to, and then they're not having them as early as they used to, right? So you see a lot of couples that are just waiting for starting their family till later in age versus before. So all of these factors are, of course, affecting our entering class of kindergarten. So that, and then the competition that we have in our district as a whole, which is charter schools, private schools, other programs in other schools. We always basically reacted to things as government entities. And what we're changing is that we are looking at us as a business that is producing students that are ready for society, that are ready for their careers, right? So that's our product, is the students. So if you look at the business that is being operated, in order for us to continue all of the services and all of the good work that we do, whether it's training our teachers to provide the service, whether it's services directly to the students, if we care about continuing that, we need to stop the bleeding of declining enrollment in whatever way we can. And one way, probably not telling people to have babies, right? We can't. So we're trying to have our students that should be in Riverside Unified School District elect to stay in Riverside Unified School District and not choose a charter, not choose a private school, because we have actually better programs and better opportunities. And most of our schools have specialty schools that our community probably don't know about. We all know about, we're all so proud of, but our community not necessarily is aware of all of these opportunities. So when we engaged with this process, we did it in two different ways. We started back in 2018 with what we call quantitative data, focus groups with parents that are in our district, focus group with parents that are left our district, and focus groups with parents that are just starting their families and whether they would choose our district. And we hired a company to do all of that work, and there was data that came out of that we used to make our next steps. Based on that data, I'm not sure if everybody knows, but we do have a communication committee. One of our board subcommittees is communication committee. So we engaged 2 board members on that committee to take us through this process and guide some of the interests that we're trying to accomplish. And so with that data, we went through a process of selecting a consultant to lead our marketing and branding for Riverside Unified School District. And that consultant is Meering. It used to be Meering Carson, but they changed names since a couple of years ago. So that company, I don't know if you're aware, but it's the same company that did like Visit San Diego or Visit California. So it's that caliber that we've engaged and gave them that data. They also did additional focus groups to get what we call qualitative data, the emotional needs of our parents and our community. And so they got some more data there of what this community is looking for our district. And yesterday was kind of the final step before we start what they call an ideation process. So last night, our board considered 2 options. If you want to really look at detail of the whole presentation, you can access it on the website. It's attached to our board agenda for the marketing plan. But the option that they chose is RUSD be extraordinary. So that's going to be, it's going to be like the title of that option that they picked. The committee considered like 4 different options. There was a lot of pros and cons for selecting them or not, and we landed on the recommendation for RUSD be extraordinary. It actually fits also our logo that we've launched about a year ago. With that, there'll be a lot of marketing material that's going to use our students. If we can afford to use our own students to be taken into their future careers as part of our marketing plan, or some stock material if we can't afford to do it exactly with our students. But we're going to try to shoot to use our own stock. But one of the things we're trying to do is have them be marketed in their own future career plans, like an astronaut or a doctor or a teacher or a construction worker. So we wanted to use some of the images where the students are actually in those uniforms. And some of that doesn't exist right now. We have a lot of stock of a lot of pictures, as you see around the district, but not necessarily in their future career. And that's what's expensive. Besides the fact that once you get it, to put it on billboards or commercials or radio ads, it's also expensive. We have the budget, it's just limited. And so we're trying to do what's our best bang for our buck. So we're just very, very excited. Some of the comments is like, not just ready, but world ready. And then have images that show our students in their future career and what's the potential. If you, in any business that's successful, Google, Apple, they're part of their budget, a huge part of their budget is advertisement and quality control, right? So if we care about our students, and we have been caring about the quality control by doing the training for our teachers to make sure they have and they're equipped with the best tools to teach our students. We also need to care about marketing them and branding them and continuing to be competitive if there's other options for parents to have. So that's the reason that we chose to go in this route. And I know that there is some community members that voice their opinion in every board meeting that don't agree with that. They think we're a government entity. We should not spend a penny on marketing. I'm the business person for the district, and I'm so fortunate to feel like our board and our superintendent and cabinet are all aligned to know that just being a government entity doesn't mean you're going to be serving your customers at that level. You really need to be thinking as a business if you want to be competitive. And DMV should do the same, even if they're a government entity. So all that to say, we're very excited that we got that recommendation. Now the work starts with that company to start the ideation process, and we'll keep you updated. But part of that agenda item, we also worked with our staff. This whole work, by the way, has been led by the communication department, and then they're short-staffed. They've been, in and out for vacancies. I'm so proud of the communication department, and I really want to thank them, along with all of the stakeholders that served on focus groups or served on committees as we went through this process. Thank you, Richard and Nick and all of your team members that took work off of your table so you can actually do this work. Thank you. Yeah, that's awesome. So what they worked on, and this is the piece that I'm also so excited about, is our logo. I don't know if you, not that you remember, you all remember. The hat on the RUSD, it's on the R, right? It is, and I tried to do it justice, to try to practice to what to say to the board. And then I gave up on it and asked Nick to come up and explain it. And you can actually stop right after this meeting and ask Nick, what does that mean? But I'll try to tell you. When we had the hat on the R, it was so challenging for anybody to do any marketing materials, whether it's publication, whether it's mirroring, whether it's FM3, anybody that tried to take our logo and stretch it or do something different with it, it was very challenging. What this will do, this refresh look, kept all of the essence of RUSD and the hat and the tassel, and I believe it made it more dynamic and beautiful and digital friendly. So the hat will have the tassel, and the tassel has the RUSD rain cross on it instead of having it inside the R, and it's not sitting on the R, so you can actually, at one point, everybody will be looking at that hat with the tassel and know this is Riverside Unified School District. Just like the check that you have for Nike, you don't have to have Nike under it to know that this is Nike, right? Or the smile for Amazon. I believe this is where we'll get with this hat, but it's a work in progress, right? It's going to take us with this marketing plan to get there. And for now, we still have to use RUSD and Riverside Unified School District. Because RUSD can refer to Rialto Unified or Redlands Unified, so we also clean that up to make sure as we go through this process, people know that this hat and this tassel is associated with RUSD Riverside. So I'm going to stop right there. I said a lot, and I'm also enthusiastic, and probably as much as CPR, right? questions and thoughts? Yes.
Are you able to share some of the results from the company, the qualitative, quantitative results that they found out?
Yes, I can. I don't know if this setting would be, but I will be happy to give you actually the full report. We've published it, so we can give you the full report so you can scroll through it. But the question was, can we share some of the results here? It's a lot, and I would be happy to dedicate some time to do that with anybody that wants to, or we can have a session. But most of it is that they didn't know a lot of the stuff that we have in our districts as far as programs. When we talk about, oh, do you know we have dual language program, or do we have STEM Academy, or do we have engineering class? They did not know a lot of the information.
Do you consider taking transfers from other schools on students to pick up our enrollment?
So that's a very good question. Do you consider taking transfers from other school districts to increase our enrollment? I believe that's going to be a byproduct of this process. Our focus wasn't necessarily to just take kids from other districts, which is great. We're districts of choice. We continue to lobby to keep the status of being a district of choice, which means we can take kids from other districts without a release during a certain enrollment time, right? But what our mission was is to continue to increase our enrollment by having our own students within the district boundaries choose Riverside Unified School District. We have 2,200 approximately leave to other districts. Surrounding districts, public schools, not necessarily just charter and private, but public schools that are surrounding. And there is really no reason for that. We have all of the same programs that they have in other districts, but they market their districts better than we do. And so whether it's a middle college, whether it's a dual enrollment programs, whether it's STEM academies, whether it's pathways, we have 38 pathways of career pathways that also we are not publishing out there to make sure that our parents know. So sometimes they leave as soon as they get to 8th grade. They want those opportunities. We have athletic programs that also need to be marketed because they leave to surrounding districts because they think athletic programs are better in other districts too. So all of that to say, we're going to increase within if we can. And as a byproduct, once you do marketing for a district and they see all of these gyms, districts also would want to use the district of choice to try to get into our school districts. And just like Dr. Hansen said, come all, we love you all, teach you, and keep you safe. Any other questions? Sandy.
When do we start using the new logo? When can we put it on our forms?
Very good question. It was approved yesterday. It can start at any time.
What was the question?
I'm sorry. When can we start to use the logo, the new logo? I'm going to ask Nick and Richard, do you have a timeline for when can we start?
So, hi everybody, I'm Richard Prince. I'm the Community Relations Manager and work with Nick Hamry, our graphic design and digital content specialist. He's responsible for the good work of the logo, as you heard from Maze. He's right now developing the whole brand package, so really we wanted to make sure that we were on the right track and that we got the logo approved by the full board before we go and start using it. But now Nick starts the work of developing all the different materials that you'll see that logo on, so updating the letterhead or PowerPoint templates or any common materials that we would be using across the district. Nick will now start rolling that logo in. We're working on a small communication plan to make sure to cascade that out to all of staff and managers and make sure that they know where to find all of the downloaded or downloadable file images on the website. I don't know if Nick has anything to add, but we should be seeing something in the next week or two as far as some communication from our department as far as where you can get the logo files. And if you guys have any questions about using the logo or ways to use it, you can reach out to myself or Nick Hamry. But yeah, you should start seeing communication from us in the next week or two on that.
Thank you, Richard. Do we have anybody from audience out there as far as questions? Somebody's monitoring. You're good? Okay. So we can still have questions. Just direct them to me, Richard, Nick, and we'll get you answers. I'm going to move into interim budget, which is another creative way, but it's just the numbers versus marketing. And I want to update you. We have been coming to you on several occasions. Hold on one second. Let me switch. and giving you an update about our budget, because again, there's a lot of, I'm gonna use our president's words, there's a lot of fake news out there that says, oh, the district has a lot of struggle financially, and I'm so proud again of our cabinet, our board, that have taken all of the steps back, I would say 5 years ago, but most intense 3 years ago, to stabilize our budget in a way where I can go on record saying we're solid for 5 years. Now, there's a lot of unknowns. Coronavirus could be one of them. What does that mean to the revenue at the state, which trickles down, and we're 40% of that revenue is dedicated to school districts. So that is an unknown, and we are going to plan and continue planning and monitoring. But as we know now, as we know today, all the assumptions for cost of living adjustments and all of the increases in rates, whether it's STRS, PERS, and other obligations, are incorporated into the budget. And we have, I can say, a solid fund balance that meets double the requirement by the state of California. So the state of California has a requirement for reserve for school districts of 2% of your budget. Our board changed our policy to 4% of the budget, and that means that we have, at the end of the fund balance, unrestricted dollars dedicated for that. And so I'm able to say that we have, as a district, done this plan of solvency without huge and major impact on our economy as far as layoffs or negative impacts to our employees, or even reducing services to students. We're keeping a same level of students. Now that we are also in that mode, when we try to be creative with a new service or new initiative in our district, we're reallocating dollars, which means we are always evaluating what's working, what's not working. And if something is not working, we're talking about how do we shift those dollars to something that will work. And if you saw the progress over the last 5 years, doing the local control accountability plan to guide the budget, $500 million budget, in order to achieve the results and the outcomes that we're talking about, got us over the last 5, or really when Dr. Henson started 6 years ago with the vision, and then the process to start with all of the team, the whole district being on board, got us from a 91% graduation rate to 97% graduation rate that was published. So the work is definitely generating outcome, and it's through the resources that's allocated to make sure that they're strategic to get the mission of the district to be accomplished, right? We're in the core program, the core essence of our district is to educate and prepare our students to be college, career, and citizen ready. So I'm happy to say that our budget was presented to the board with a positive certification to accomplish that. But just to give you some numbers, our revenue is $517 million projected for this year, and our expenditures is $534 million. And it sounds like we're spending more, but much of that is an updated carryover from the year before. Every time a grant leaves dollars that hasn't been spent last year, I have to carry them over to this year. That doesn't become a new revenue, so it just stays as an expenditure because it wasn't spent last year. So it makes it look like we're spending more, but it's really balanced, because if you keep your fund balance the same for 5 years, so you're protecting what's in that saving of the reserve, then you're not really dipping into it. That means you're not deficit spending. But it does look like that on paper, because you're taking some of the things you were going to do last year and you're going to do them this year, and you have to budget for it that way. Does that make sense? Am I making sense to that? Okay. I will open it up for questions very soon. But anyone that would like to see some of these numbers, and I know our partners and we share it with all of our stakeholders, but we do have a 5-year plan that actually demonstrates what is our projections, what's our assumptions. Our assumptions are conservative in my opinion, because we're conservative with enrollment. We don't take the next 5 years and say we're going to just skyrocket because of this marketing plan. We're being modest. We're being very realistic. If it does happen, we will update it and we'll add it. The marketing plan is going to cost us, by the time we're done over the 3 years, about $500,000 that's already budgeted. If we convince 50 students, 50 kindergartners to enter our district versus going into any other setting, we will pay for that. 50 kindergartners would pay because that's what we would generate with those students. If they are free and reduced, English language learners, or foster youth, we even generate a lot more dollars than that. So we do care, like Dr. Hansen said, we care about all of our students, and we are receiving dollars to make sure that we take care of all of our subgroups too through the budget. So I'll stop right there and ask for any questions. This was crystal clear? Or is it, yes? Question is, are we expecting any layoffs for classified employees this year? I'm not expecting it for the next 5 years. The only thing is, I have no idea what this economy is going to do in the next future. I'm not sure if, I don't want to scare anybody, or I don't want to alarm anybody, but the coronavirus has already affected the market, and the market going down means less capital gains, less profit at the corporate world. So there'll be change to those structures, and there might be layoffs in the private sector that makes income goes down for us individuals, not necessarily in government yet, but I'm talking about generally. 50% of our income in California for schools, but California in general, is paid by 1% of Californians. The ones that have the higher income that generates capital gains through their portfolios, which is dependent on the market, 1% of Californians pays 50% of the income in California. So to say that we're not going to be monitoring that very closely is an understatement. So we will be monitoring very closely. We are going to do it in a way that's methodical, just like the previous financial stabilization plan that we went through in the last 3 years. We did it with collaboration with our bargaining units, with our teams, our stakeholders, to make sure that we minimize any impact. But our goal is to continue with these assumptions. If California has the same cost of living adjustment, same revenue structure for our schools, we should be okay, and no layoffs anytime soon in my projection. Any other questions?
You mentioned the increased costs for CalSTRS and CalPERS. Governor Newsom shored up the CalSTRS part of it. Has that been factored into the budget? And I know they're working on the CalPERS part of it, kind of like a matching program.
Yeah. So the question is about STRS and PERS, and our governor, unlike the previous governor, is really helping to try to fund it, fund it ahead of time, so that way the impact of the increases is lower. And yes, that has been factored in as of the second interim, because we in our district, we do all of the assumptions in a way that any dollars that are left are allocated for services. So in order to, once they give us a relief in one area, we talk about it through the LCAP process, and we reallocate the dollars. All of the increases for PERS and STRS are also incorporated. So we're not necessarily worried about having all of these increases be a surprise to us. Some agencies, I would say, out there are reacting very negatively to STRS and PERS, our retirement systems and pension plans, because of, in my mind, the lack of planning ahead. 5 years ago, when they started to say they were going to increase the rates, agencies should have planned to incorporate those into theirs. But many districts, not necessarily districts, but agencies, public agencies, relied on legislation to try to change that. And we didn't. We relied on the numbers that were published, and we actually incorporated it into the budget. That's one of the main reasons why we did a financial stabilization plan, the early retirement plan, and some of the reduction in positions without major layoffs that we've done. You've seen the impact of it because we're still doing the same services, right? All of that was because we wanted to incorporate it and not have to worry about it. So it's in the budget, it's in there for 5 years, it was still meeting all of the other obligations.
So the money that he gave back to the districts to shore it up, that's already been factored in?
Yeah, he didn't give it back to the districts. What he did is he funded the actual fund, and so told us to lower ours from 18% this year to 17%. And so we've changed that rate, and it didn't change the goal. The goal was still to go up to the 20% for STRS and 25% 5% for PERS that is actually expected to go even to 29. So that is still the same because the fund is underfunded. The pension fund is underfunded, but he paid it on our behalf to the fund. Any other questions? I don't know if we're making sense because I'm not sure if I repeated all the questions to the audience, but okay. All right, so with that, I was reminded by Dr. Hansen that he asked you to think about other questions. So let's go back to the full meeting, and is there any other questions that you have? So I can make sure I tell him that we've asked that question. Yes?
Do we have a plan in place if schools do happen to get shut down because of the virus?
Very good questions. Do we have a plan in place if the schools are told, like it would be the call from the county health department? Dr. Kaiser would be the only one that can call and say, or any of his staff, to close the school. Do we have a plan in place? Our team from Superintendent Council met all the way to 10 o'clock last night, drafted all of the materials that's necessary, and put a plan in place for what actions will take place in order for us to pull the plug on closing a school. Some of that information is going to come out today. The immediate information is going to come out today, just like Dr. Hansen had mentioned. So you'll see several different emails. Some of you might be wearing several hats. One would be as an employee, you'll get a notification that way. One will be as a parent. If you're a parent in our district, you'll get a notification as a parent and students. And then there's community email that's going to go out. Some of the closure process, we're only discussing with key team members that are going to be taking the charge on that. So we might not publish all of the closure process, but the plan has been done and it's actually documented. We don't want to alarm anybody. There is no cases, as Dr. Hansen had said, not in Riverside, nowhere close to Riverside. But as you see in the news, it could happen anytime, and we want to be ready. So yes, there is a plan in place for any closure. And we're not reinventing the wheel. We're learning from other districts of what they've done, some of that, and then we're doing our own innovation to make sure that we don't interrupt services. I know we're running over time. Okay, so I want to thank you again for all that you do. All of this work and all of this balance and where we're at with achievement cannot happen without everybody in Riverside Unified. Every position is needed. If you're still here, you're so valuable to us, and we want to thank you for everything that you do. Whether it's in this room and out there, thank you, and keep up the good work for Riverside Unified School District. Thank you.